You've probably ordered a glass of IPA just because the name sounded trendy. And then you found yourself engulfed in confusion as the bizarre blend of pine resin and tropical fruit danced strangely on your tongue. You swallow. Your throat tingles with a sharp bitterness. Most of us think IPA is just a hipster fad, a luxurious specialty for modern youth. But the truth is entirely different. This explosion of flavor wasn't actually born to be savored. Brace yourself. We are about to flip through the entire chronicle of the IPA, trust me. The origin of this intense bitterness is far crazier than you might think. Let's dive in and discover it. IPA actually stands for India Pale Ale, a very Indian-sounding name. But this beer wasn't born there at all. The word India refers to the destination of this beer. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the British Empire needed to ship beer to their soldiers and officials belonging to the East India Company, stationed in India. It's that simple. Next is the word pale. This refers to the bright color of the liquid. 18th century brewers improved the way they dried malt. They created a brilliant yellow to amber liquid. Thanks to this, people could easily distinguish it from the thick, dark beers like stout or porter that were highly popular at the time. And finally, ale. This term has roots in Old Norse. It represents the family of beers brewed using the top fermentation method. To understand this better, we need to distinguish between beer families. Mass-market beer is usually a lager. Lagers use bottom-fermenting yeast. They lie dormant and ferment at very cold temperatures, only between 45 to 59 degrees Fahrenheit. IPA carries the pure bloodline of an ale. Its yeast works vigorously at warmer temperatures, from 60 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit. This warm temperature acts like an alchemical furnace. It helps convert massive amounts of sugar into alcohol. It creates a significantly more complex flavor profile. A standard glass of IPA has an alcohol by volume of 5.5% to 7.5%. Meanwhile, regular lagers lag behind at just 4% to 6%. In reality, IPA is just a small branch of the pale ale family, but it is vastly more intense than its sibling. Traditional pale ale always emphasizes balance and the mild sweetness of the malt. But IPA, it is a literal explosion of hops. Us hops are the absolute heart of this drink. They create a deep, robust bitterness, pushing well past 40 on the IBU, International Bitterness Units scale. Accompanying that is a wild spectrum of aromas, notes of citrus, pineapple, mango, or tropical fruits. Sometimes it's a hit of herbs or pine resin shooting straight up your nose. But why did people cram so many hops into it? Let's travel back to the brutal backdrop of the 18th century. Supplying beer to the East India Company was a massive logistical nightmare. The ocean voyage dragged on for 3 to 6 grueling months. There was absolutely no refrigeration system. The barrels of beer they brought along quickly rotted under the scorching heat. Enter a historical figure, George Hodgson. He was the owner of the Bow Brewery. Hodgson had created an export beer called October Beer. He knew that hops weren't just for aroma. They possess incredible antibacterial properties. They act exactly like a natural preservative. And so, he stuffed a massive amount of hops into the wooden casks. This liquid didn't just survive the journey. It tasted absolutely phenomenal upon arrival. This miracle continued to explode when breweries moved to the Burton-on-Trent region. Brewing giants like Allsops or Bass held a geographical secret. That was hard water. The water here contained incredibly high levels of gypsum minerals. This natural chemistry enhanced the beer's crystal clarity. It extracted the essence, making the hop bitterness significantly sharper and crisper than the water in London ever could. However, every peak eventually has its downfall. The modern refrigerator was invented. People no longer needed hops to prevent spoilage. Then, World War I struck, devastating everything. skyrocketing taxes forced the alcohol content in beer to drop. IPA quickly lost its dominant position. It collapsed entirely in the face of the rising lager. The name IPA seemed destined to sleep forever in a museum, until America decided to wake it up. In the late 20th century, a rebellious movement exploded on American soil. It was the craft beer revolution. Pioneering brewers were determined to resurrect this legacy. Burt Grant with Yakima Brewing is a prime example. Or monumental icons like Anchor Liberty Ale and Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. They refused to use the old ingredients. They celebrated the vibrant hop varieties of America: Cascade, Citra, Centennial, or Mosaic. Throw in some Simcoe, Amarillo, and Nelson Sauvin. But their true weapon lay in their crafting techniques. Have you ever heard of dry hopping? It is an incredibly devious trick. Instead of boiling them, they add dry hops into the fermenter after the fermentation process is finished. Even crazier, they created double dry hopped. That means stuffing in hops twice. Some places apply single hopped, staying loyal to one single hop variety. The pinnacle of freshness is fresh hopped. They harvest wet hops out in the field and throw them straight into the brewing vat within 24 hours. Of course, a glass of beer cannot just be bitter. They use malt to balance out that astringency. Malt provides the necessary sugars. The yeast will eat the sugar to convert it into a sky-high alcohol content. Even many original IPAs use traditional British Brettanomyces yeast to recreate that ancient flavor. Everything intertwines, pushing the bitterness level to 40 to 70 IBU, or even more monstrously high. It is exactly this creative freedom that broke all the rules. It splintered the IPA into a complex matrix. Are you ready to step into the forest of these hybrid children? The IPA ecosystem today is insanely diverse. If you are nostalgic, order an English IPA. It is very calm, perfectly balanced with a malty backbone and a faint hint of floral and earthy notes. The American IPA is much fiercer, exploding with citrus and pine. Are you taking a stroll in California? The West Coast IPA is your true love. It is crystal clear and bone dry, razor-sharp bitterness, and heavily concentrated with pine resin. But the East Coast of America chose its own path. This region gave birth to the New England IPA, or hazy IPA. It is incredibly cloudy due to the use of oats or wheat. It is exceptionally smooth, very low bitterness, super sweet with the taste of tropical fruit juice. Caught between these two territories, we have the Midwest IPA, a harmonious crossroads of malt and hops. The alcohol spectrum has also been stretched to the absolute limit by Americans. The Session IPA, or Micro IPA, was born to quench your thirst. The ABV is only 3 to 5%, yet it is overflowing with hop aroma. The Double IPA doubles the ingredients, shooting the ABV up to 7.5 to 10%. And the Triple IPA is a literal monster. Super strong, crossing the 12% threshold. But the creativity didn't stop there. They crossbred even more bizarre concoctions. Black IPA uses dark, roasted malts. It carries notes of coffee and chocolate, but remains sharply bitter. White IPA is a hybrid child mixed with Belgian wit beer. Belgian IPA incorporates Belgian yeast, creating a spicy kick and fruity esters. Red IPA and Rye IPA use rye grain, delivering a peppery bite just like sourdough bread. You like it crisp? This cold IPA or IPL uses lager yeast fermented at cooler temperatures. It creates an incredibly clean finish. Brute IPA uses enzymes to completely wipe out the sugar, making it bone dry and bubbly exactly like champagne. They even throw lactose sugar into the mix to create a rich, creamy milkshake IPA. They ferment it with real fruit to make sour IPA, or they go completely insane and turn it into a dessert with pastry IPA. There are even non-alcoholic or gluten-free versions for those on a diet. So many mutations. The IPA today is the proud face of the global craft beer industry. It has birthed its own distinct culture. People go crazy hunting down limited release batches. The artistic designs on the cans are celebrated like literal paintings. However, the word IPA has gradually morphed into a highly lucrative marketing buzzword. Slapping those 3 letters on a can makes it significantly easier for breweries to sell their products. It blurs the lines of the original definition. The truth is, many modern sour IPAs or pastry IPAs retain almost 0 traces of traditional hop flavor. The consequence is that countless misconceptions have taken root in consumers' minds. Most people assume IPAs are always extremely bitter and have a very high alcohol content. That is completely false. As I just broke down, hazy IPAs aren't sharply bitter at all. And session IPAs have an incredibly low ABV. It is exactly this diversity that has created fierce polarization. There are those who are deeply passionate about its complexity. And then there are those who grimace in disgust, complaining about the harsh bitterness or swearing that it tastes like soap. To truly understand this beverage, you need a bit of tasting etiquette. First recommendation, drink it while it's incredibly fresh. Don't let it sit around. Hops oxidize and degrade very easily. Next, pour it into a specialized tulip glass. Serve it slightly cool, between 45 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And here is the ultimate secret weapon: food pairing. The bitterness and acidity of an IPA have the ability to brilliantly cut right through rich, fatty flavors. This weekend, bring a 6-pack to a backyard BBQ. Then it is the perfect puzzle piece for a spicy Thai curry or tongue-scorching Mexican tacos. Take a sip while you are mid-bite into a juicy burger, a savory sausage, or spicy buffalo wings. Fried foods like French fries or bitterballen are also a fantastic choice. The razor-sharp edge of an IPA will pierce right through the fattiness of blue cheese or aged cheddar. Even a robust glass of IPA paired with a slice of cheesecake or a lemon tart for dessert will be a mind-blowing shock to your taste buds.